What's going on, you guys? This is Ron with your second stimulus check update and second stimulus package update for Saturday, October 31st. Happy Halloween, happy Saturday, and all that good stuff. I wonder how many of you guys are actually going to be doing trick-or-treating, given all that's going on. Drop me a comment down below if you guys are going to do trick-or-treating. My son definitely wants to go trick-or-treating, and we haven't decided yet. So just let me know what you guys are doing and what you're doing to protect yourselves if you do. But anyway, guys, I've got multiple updates on stimulus packages, stimulus checks for the American people, and unemployment benefits. And I've got very good news for you guys. There is stimulus money going out. It has been signed off on as of Monday for certain state residents. I'm going to share this information with you guys. But first, if you haven't already, definitely subscribe to the channel. We cover all things personal finance, investing, and of course, stimulus checks and stimulus package updates. And so if you haven't already, definitely subscribe and hit that notification bell if you haven't already. And it does take me a lot of time to put these videos together. So if you haven't already, definitely go ahead and hit the like button. And don't forget to check out the Financial Freedom Program. It is still currently 50% off while we are still in the pre-launch phase. However, in this program, I teach you guys exactly how to build wealth automatically, like literally automate your wealth building process. It is an amazing program. I'm going to be changing a lot of lives, and I look forward to hearing a lot of you guys' positive responses on how well things are working out for you guys. But otherwise, let's get into the content. Looks like the White House is aiming for a virus relief bill in the coming weeks. According to White House Communications Director Farah, she said that the White House is hoping to reach an agreement with Democrats on the virus relief that can be voted on within weeks, suggesting that a deal is unlikely until after the election day. And then when Farah was asked about the prospect of a deal this week, now that the Senate has already confirmed Senate Court Justice Amy Coney Barrett, she said that we are confident that we can get something in the coming weeks. This is definitely some of the best news that I've heard in the last several days. At the very least, she went on to say that we are hoping within weeks. I don't want to get too ahead of any announcements. I mean, hey, I'll take any kind of inside information I can get on the stimulus checks for the American people, stimulus packages, unemployment insurance. So if she's willing to kind of share this information, that's all well and good with me. Things have been very quiet this weekend in terms of stimulus movement. However, quiet doesn't mean that progress isn't being made. We actually heard from House Speaker Nancy Pelosi today, and I definitely wanted to share some insights from her on this interview where she spoke a little bit on that today. So let me share that with you guys right now.
Joining me now is the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi. Madam Speaker, thank you very much for being with us. The last time that you were on the show, Madam Speaker, you were very optimistic about something being done before the election. That certainly is no longer the case. The Treasury Secretary is blaming you for all the private negotiations going public. The Washington Post is saying that you and Mnuchin were once Washington's odd couple, but that your relationship has flamed out. Is this a flamed out relationship?
Well, it doesn't matter what our relationship is. It matters what the truth is. And the truth is that this administration has failed miserably in responding to this virus. In fact, today, our select committee on the coronavirus put out a report: inefficient, ineffective, inequitable. The Trump administration's failed response.
And I was just complimenting on how good Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin's negotiating skills were, in comparison to White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows. As you know, President Trump has assigned both of these two individuals to handle the stimulus package negotiations. And just earlier this week, I was saying how much better of a job that Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin was doing compared to Mark Meadows. He was making progress. There was lots of progress being made. We were getting higher negotiation quantities or amounts in terms of how much he's willing to approve on this next stimulus package. In negotiations, we had gotten up to $1.92 trillion on the stimulus package offer from the White House. And this has been as close to reaching an agreement as we've ever been throughout this entire process. Since the HEROES Act was passed in May, we've never been this close. And so this definitely comes as a surprise that the relationship, the communication, the communication issues that Nancy Pelosi and Mnuchin have been having, at least, coming to the surface. This is definitely a surprise to me, as well as a lot of other people. Not to mention, the relationship had to have been pretty good. I mean, she says, Nancy Pelosi is saying that, it's not about their relationship. But, let's be honest, guys, you have to have a pretty good relationship with someone that you're speaking to for many hours every single week. And, for the last several weeks, Nancy Pelosi and Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin were speaking every single day. So, I don't think, and the way that these negotiators work, they don't have to talk to one another. I mean, if we look at President Trump and, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, technically the negotiations happening between the House and the president right now. We're just leveraging Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin and Mark Meadows to handle the speaking part for President Trump. So, the fact that President Trump hasn't spoken to Nancy Pelosi face to face or even on the phone in over a year tells us, it confirms that they don't have to speak to each other. So the fact that Nancy Pelosi is speaking with Steve Mnuchin for many hours every single week, and they don't have to do it, obviously the relationship had to have been good. So let's see if we can get a little bit insight on what happened with that, because I do feel like, if we're going to see something happen really quickly, Steve Mnuchin could be the guy to make that happen, at least based on the progress that we've been making so far. But let's bring it back to Nancy Pelosi real quick.
We have given the administration plenty of time to come back with answers as to how they would deal with honoring our heroes. You just paid tribute to the heroes who are there in the healthcare. Many of them are part of the state and local facilities to minister to the needs of people with the coronavirus. Honor our heroes. They risk their lives to save lives, and now many of them will lose their jobs. Why? Because the president does not want to recognize that state and local government is playing a very big role in ministering to the needs of those who are sick, as well as the revenue they have lost because of the coronavirus. They have also keep saying, more than 2 weeks ago, the secretary said that they were going to agree to our language on testing. Finally, they were going to agree to our language on testing, but they haven't yet. So let's not get involved in what this is.
So what Nancy Pelosi is talking about is she's talking about the language associated with just the virus testing. This virus testing has almost taken the entire, scope of all conversations in the negotiation process over the last couple of weeks. It's far less about the numbers. It's far less about the total amount of the package. It's been more or less about how is the government going to be contractually obligated to address virus-related virus testing matters, specific language. And just to kind of boil it down, the majority of the issue has been, Nancy Pelosi's, House of Representatives, primarily the Democrats, they want wording in such a way where, it's very pointed in terms of what the government has to do, because basically what's happening here, this stimulus package, it's a big contract. That's all it is, and so all a contract is it's an agreement that's put in paper. It's put on paper. That's why she's always saying putting pen to paper. It's a verbal agreement that gets converted onto paper so that, both sides can read through, sign off, and agree that, hey, this is what is supposed to happen. This is the exact approach that needs to happen. And so Nancy Pelosi is essentially saying, hey, Steve Mnuchin, the White House, they said that they're going to make some minor adjustments to how we phrase certain things in this contract. And, she's saying that, when they came back, they've changed a lot of different things. And what she's saying is that, the way it was initially worded, certain virus-related testing measures were mandatory. And the way that they reworded it kind of allowed it to be, not mandatory, but hey, we may implement XYZ, versus the way Nancy Pelosi's team had written it. It must be done. So there's a lot of little tweaks in the wording that can ultimately change the responsibilities that the parties have. And it looks like this is the biggest sticking point for Nancy Pelosi at this point.
Secretary did say in his letter that I think should be pointed out is that we should be grateful. We should be thanking them rather than criticizing them for more. Thank you for nearly 250,000 people dying from the coronavirus. Thank you for nearly maybe just over 9 million people affected by it, tens of millions.
Now, by thanking them, obviously there's going to be a difference in interpretations, but by thanking them, I think what the secretary was meaning by that was, hey, thanking them for coming up so far. The original negotiation started off, miles apart, $3.4 trillion versus $1 trillion. And, the gap has been closed by trillions of dollars since then. Right now we're as close as we've ever been. We're within 10% of the original negotiation spread. And so I think he meant thanking him for the progress that's been made, not the fact that there's, an extreme number of virus related cases and deaths since the start of this whole ordeal. But, that's just my take on that one.
Millions, as you mentioned, going on unemployment insurance, 8 million people slipping into poverty because of the coronavirus. 17 million children food insecure, millions of their families on the verge of eviction, and not honoring our state and not crushing the virus, and they want us to say thank you. So let's just be calm. Let's just understand this election is very important. We will insist upon the truth. And that is that we must allocate the resources in a way that honors our heroes. You just demonstrated why we should crush the virus, put money in the pockets of the American people, and be able to open up our schools and open our economy because we have followed the science. Testing, tracing, treatment, mask wearing, sanitation, separation, and the rest. And also in a way that it recognizes that overwhelmingly this virus is affecting communities of color.
But the problem is with all of this is, this whole all or nothing approach. I mean, Nancy Pelosi is clearly aware of all the statistics, all of the entire number of people who are unemployed, the segments of the different demographics that are hit harder than others. She's fully aware of all of these different things. She's aware of, the increased number of, homelessness, the increased number of evictions, She's aware of all of these statistics. She's aware of the fact that the American people need stimulus money. They need stimulus checks, unemployment insurance to be reinstated. But this all or nothing approach has cost, it seems to me, and you guys let me know if I'm wrong on this one, but it seems to me that this all or nothing approach is actually costing Americans way more than if we would have just accepted, some of the reasonable offers that we've heard in the past. If anything, kind of going back to what she was just saying, if anything, it seems like, maybe we should be thanking the White House because, if it weren't for the White House, there really wouldn't be any negotiations at this point. If we look at the previous concessions, every single stimulus package modification that we've had or heard of over the last 8 weeks has literally been, the White House adding more to the stimulus package in the direction of what Nancy Pelosi has wanted. And if we look at the last 8 weeks, I can't see anything that Nancy Pelosi has compromised on at all. And, you guys, I try to stay right in the middle, because I don't vote Democrat or Republican. I will vote for, whoever I feel like can do the best job. So, I might vote a Republican in 1 year. I might vote a Democrat in another year because, the party to me doesn't matter. I'm just more concerned with, how's this person going to execute matters that I believe are important. A lot of people vote just because they consider themselves a particular party member. Hey, some people, if they're just a Democrat, they will only vote for a Democrat. Doesn't even matter what they have to say or what their plans are once they get in office. They just vote for a Democrat because they're a Democrat. Same thing can happen for Republicans. And, if that's the way you vote, that's cool. What I'm saying, though, is I don't really care what side you're on. I'm just kind of calling out what I'm seeing here. So I just wanted to be clear about that, guys.
Difference of opinion. I was hoping that we could reconcile them. I still am hopeful that we will, but it won't begin by us thanking the administration for what they have done, as they have claimed incredible progress. We must insist upon the truth and make policy that allocates the resources in a way that is effective and not just give money to the president to spend any way he may desire. not to solve the problem.
Now, in Nancy's defense, I totally get it. You don't want to just willy-nilly allow potentially trillions of dollars, multi-trillions of dollars to just, willy-nilly float into these different branches of government without, proper oversight and rules and regulations on how that money should be spent. I totally get what Nancy Pelosi is coming from on that front. So I think that the bottom line, though, is that, she's criticizing the White House for, saying that they should thank her, or that she should thank them. And I get it, maybe the wording was bad, right? But at the same time, the only reason why we're as close as we are in this negotiation is because of the give that we've seen on behalf of the White House. They've been willing to give a lot more, toward Nancy Pelosi's cause. But at the same time, Nancy really hasn't been willing to give, at all from where she's standing. In other news, the stock market actually has been down quite a bit over the last several days. In fact, last I checked, it's been down about 18 or 1900 points. But Nancy Pelosi is saying that the stock market plunge will actually bring President Trump back to the negotiating table for the next stimulus package for the American people. And as you know, President Trump hangs a lot of his presidential success and prosperity with relation to the economy, and he ties it very closely to the stock market performance. So maybe Nancy Pelosi does have a point where if the stock market is being impacted negatively, perhaps there will be additional willingness from the White House and from the Senate to be able to kind of like maybe just offer, hey, Nancy, you know what? Screw the negotiations. Here's $2.2 trillion. Spend it however you want it. Let's just get this out to the American people and get the stock market back up. Because what we have seen is that every time there has been any type of, major hiccup or stumbling block with regard to stimulus package negotiations, we've definitely seen it show up in the stock market in terms of performance. And this is showing its ugly head again. So it says here that with no federal virus aid package expected until after the election, if one comes at all, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said on Wednesday, she suggested that the stock market's 3-day plunge might encourage President Trump and the White House to return to the negotiating table to hash out a deal with the Democrats after November 3rd, even if Trump is not elected next week. So this is not contingent on President Trump being elected or not. It looks like we're just kind of waiting to get past that November 3rd date. Now, at least there is some good news. I definitely wanted to share this with you guys. There are over 17,000 Americans that are now going to be receiving up to $1,800 in stimulus money. Now, this actually came back from when President Trump signed the executive action. But essentially what we have here is that it says that thousands of unemployed workers in Massachusetts will now be eligible for 6 weeks of extra $300 unemployment benefits. The unemployed Bay Staters would not originally qualify for the Lost Wages Assistance Program enacted by President Trump in early August, which I just mentioned. They received less than $100 in weekly state benefits. However, Governor Charlie Baker signed legislation on Monday that increases the minimum unemployment compensation for each recipient to $100, which will be applied retroactively, which is great. So not only are they going to get this extra $1,800 from the LWA program that President Trump enacted back in August, but they're getting whatever difference between whatever unemployment insurance amount they were receiving. They're getting the difference between that and $100. So let's just say that they were only getting $50 a week. The legislation that the governor signed off on is bumping them up. So if they were at $50, they're going to $100, and now that's an extra $50 per week. And it's going retroactive back as far as when their unemployment started. So I don't know if they were on unemployment for 2 months, that might be an extra $400 plus the $1,800. That they're now going to be eligible for, because according to President Trump's executive order, in order to get the extra $300 per week unemployment insurance benefit, you had to be receiving at least $100 per week in unemployment insurance. So, the governor signed some legislation to give extra money so that more people could qualify for the LWA. And I think it's a great idea. I mean, and I think that we're going to probably see more state action in terms of legislation that can be passed at the state level to help the American people. If you guys watched my video yesterday, I talked about the $375 that the Colorado residents were now receiving in the form of stimulus, thanks to the Colorado governor who signed an executive order to make that happen. So I think, and I said this yesterday, I think we're going to see more and more action at the state level to provide stimulus to the American people. So as more and more state level stimulus money comes out, I'm definitely going to be sharing that with you guys. So definitely stay tuned. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, definitely subscribe, and definitely give this video a like if you haven't already. Definitely subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate you guys. But that's all for this stimulus check update and stimulus package update. And I will definitely see you guys on the next